Hi guys, welcome back. I hope everyone is doing great. So in today's video, we're talking about my Serge Lutens collection. I am a big fan of the house of Serge Lutens. I have been loving the fragrances from this house for a very, very long time. This is a house that I was exploring very early on in my fragrance journey. So I feel like I have a personal sort of connection with the house. I feel like I have an attachment to some of the bottles that I purchased years ago. Even fragrances that I don't wear much, I still want to keep in my collection. And there are still so many that I want to get my nose on and try and even add to my collection. So I have here 19 fragrances, and I decided to do a ranked list, which I never really do, but I thought it would be fun to rank them, and it was very, very difficult. I had a few sheets of loose leaf, and I moved things around more than once, and I think that the final list is one that I'm satisfied with. So let's get started with number 19 on the list. This is Jeux de Peau, and this is in the bell jar. This was released in 2011. So this one is not my favorite of my Serge Lutens fragrances, but I do have an appreciation for the complexity and how interesting the fragrance is. It's a fragrance with wheat and barley and lactonic notes and woody notes and spices. So it's sort of gourmandish, but I think it's on a woody background. I feel like it gives me the image of toast with peach marmalade and a cup of milk, and all of this is on a woody backdrop. It's bready, it's lactonic, it's a little fruity, it's a little spicy. When it dries down, I think it's mostly woody. It's not as sort of gourmandish as it is in the opening. So this one is at number 19 because the scent profile is not one that I really reach for. It's interesting, but it's at the bottom of the list. At number 18 is a 1995 release from the house. This one is very popular. This is a bottle that I purchased years ago, part of my OG Serge Lutens collection, along with Féminité du Bois and others that unfortunately I sold over the years. I'm kicking myself. But this one is a 1995 release, and this is Fleurs d'Oranger. And this one is at the bottom of the list because I don't really reach for this. So this is an orange blossom fragrance. And I always thought of this fragrance as a floral that has this very clean, almost soapy scent profile, maybe even a tiny bit gentlemanly like a clean shaven gentleman. I find this very clean smelling. And when I said that in one of the other videos, on Orange Blossom Neroli fragrances, a bunch of comments pointed out that there's a cumin note in here that goes a little funky. Now, I purchased this as a full bottle, so I put the dent in this fragrance. I don't recall ever getting a funky cumin note. I did go back and spray it on skin, and I don't get anything funky in here, at least on my skin. So in the end, it's an orange blossom fragrance that to me is floral and a little sweet and almost like soapy clean. I can't get away from the soapy clean aspect of this orange blossom. And it's not one that I reach for anymore, but I will never, ever part with this. This will always be part of my collection. So at number 18 is Fleurs d'Oranger. At number 17 is a 2012 release from the house, and this is Santal Majuscule. And this is a Turkish rose fragrance with sandalwood and cacao, hints of cacao. This is a dark, rich fragrance. It's a very heavy sandalwood. It's a very heavy rose. The rose in my mind is dark. There are spices in here that darken everything. It's just heavy and dark. And this wafts off my skin. The performance is over the top, outstanding. If you like strong fragrances with great sillage that are long lasting, this is one to get your nose on. I don't get too much of the cacao, maybe a little bit in the opening. But like I said, it's a heavy sandalwood rosy fragrance with a rose that comes off as spiced and dark, in my mind at least. And I do like it, but it's towards the bottom of the list because there is something almost a little too heavy about it. I spoke about this when I had a tester. only. And then I added this to my collection. So I purchased this as a partial. And I was considering purchasing another bottle with this packaging, which is a different label from the more modern packaging with the long black labels. But I decided after wearing this a few times that it's not something that I want to get another full bottle of. I think this is just fine. I do find that I need to wear fragrances beyond just the tester to totally appreciate what I think of a fragrance. And while I like this and I appreciate it as a sandalwood rose fragrance, I like sandalwood fragrances, I think the partial is enough. So at number 17 is Santal Majuscule. At number 16 is Fils de Joie, and this is a 2020 release from the house, and I only have a decant. Look at the color of the juice. I know Serge Lutens uses artificial colorings, but it is a dark cherry red, like a very, very deep dark red. And Fils de Joie is a jasmine fragrance. We have a couple of jasmine fragrances here. I have 3, this being one of them. This one sits somewhere in the middle between A la Nuit and Sarrasins. This one has musk and civet, although I don't find it too animalic. What I find is that it's a sexy, sort of heady jasmine. I get some green components. It's very floral. It's all about this floral, heady jasmine. So you have to like a heady jasmine to enjoy this. I personally think it's sexy. I would have gone from the decant to a full bottle, but I'm having a hard time finding it. So Serge Lutens, while I do love the house, is a little bit difficult unless you're willing to purchase the fragrances from the official website. The packaging has been all over the place, from the rectangular packaging with this shaped label, either in a dark color or a white label. Then you have the more modern rectangular packaging with the long black label, which I hate, but you can find these at discounters. And Fils de Joie did come in one of those bottles. I did see it at one point, but I think it's been discontinued. So now I think I'm left with the decant unless I'm willing to pay a very high price point for one of those modern bottles on like eBay or resale market. I did see a few, but they're quite expensive. And I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger because I did see this in the 50 ml modern packaging for like $75. So I think this is okay. I have a lot of jasmine fragrances, and this one I do like, but it's not one of my favorite jasmines. The other 2 are higher on the list. So at number 16 is Fils de Joie. At number 15 is one from 1996. This is in the Gratte-Ciel bottle, and this is Cuir Mauresque. And this one is a recent addition to my collection. I had a sample of this for the longest time. I watched Rich Mitch review the fragrance. I even asked him some questions about it. I ended up getting my hands on a sample, and I used the sample for months before I pulled the trigger. I was very unsure. I find this to be a challenging fragrance on the one hand, but on the other hand, I really do like it, and I don't think I have regrets. I don't think that I would part with this bottle. Now, this one, like I said, was released in 1996, so the packaging before the Gratte-Ciel bottle, which is this tall black bottle, that I'm not sure I'm necessarily loving. I have 3 in this packaging. I'm not sure what I think of these. The packaging before this for Cuir Mauresque was the rectangular bottles with the original type of labels, not the long black labels. So this fragrance is very, very interesting. It's a fragrance of contrast, and it's a dichotomy between a floral note in here from the orange blossom and leather and this animalic quality. Now, I do perceive this as a leather fragrance. I have heard that there are people that don't get leather from this. It's unquestionable that this is, for me, a leather fragrance. The leather comes off oily. I'm picturing something worn in, glossy, oily, like a dark caramel horse saddle that's, like I said, oily and glossy. Maybe there are some black marks in there from use. And so I'm getting this oily leather. And then there's this animalic component in the fragrance, I guess from the civet. But the way I perceive the animalic component in here, something that's almost like a burnt rubbery aspect, or maybe even like going to a mechanic. If you go to a mechanic shop, the way a mechanic shop would smell, maybe even oil from a car, like old oil from a car with the remnants in it. There's something oily about the fragrance. And then contrasting this leathery, sort of animalic, oily aspect is this orange blossom that's most prominent in the opening. And so that's what I love about this. I like the floral component because it's a pretty big part of the fragrance, and it reminds me of Dior's Cuir Canage. You can't smell this and not think of Cuir Canage. I love Cuir Canage. I have a bottle, it's discontinued, but Cuir Canage is a little more refined. This one is a little bit more rough around the edges, a little more animalic and challenging. So I do like the fragrance. It's definitely a leather, and it's definitely a little bit animalic and challenging, but at the same time, it's a leather slash floral orange blossom. You get the sweetness, the freshness from the orange blossom, the floral aspects of the orange blossom, and it's contrasting this animalic slash leather part of the fragrance. So at number 15 is Cuir Mauresque. At number 14 is a more recent addition to my collection. This is 5 O'Clock Gingembre, and this is a tea fragrance. This was released in 2008. What I like about this is that the tea, even though it's dark, and I'm not a big fan of dark tea fragrances, it's a little bit muted. I feel like it's muted from other spices in here. And there's also a hint of freshness. There's a candied ginger aspect of the fragrance. It's really, really nice. And what struck me about this fragrance that I did not expect is the texture. And I was surprised because I never heard anyone describe it as a textured fragrance. And it is new to my collection. I do have to get to know it a little better, but I do like it, and I did enjoy it the first time that I wore it. But I was surprised by the texture. I find it to be a very textured fragrance. And of course, it's a tea, and there are spices, and there's this candied ginger that gives a little bit of freshness, a hint, and maybe a little bit of sweetness, but not too sweet. So I do like this. It's number 14 on the list, and I like it because of the texture mostly. I love textured fragrances. Maybe it's coming from something ambery in the fragrance, I'm not sure. But while it's a tea, I find it highly spiced and textured, and I think it's really interesting on skin. Okay, I think we need to move a little quicker because I feel like we have a lot more to discuss. So at number 13 is Cèdre, and I have two. I purchased it in the bell jar originally, and then I came across this bottle and I wanted to add it to my collection because it was a great price. I love this packaging. I'm looking to get more fragrances that are in the OG packaging into the collection. And so I have two bottles of Cèdre, and Cèdre is an interesting fragrance. I like this one a lot. I'm a big fan of Tubéreuse, and this is a cedarwood Tubéreuse fragrance with spices. There's cinnamon and there's clove in here. And in the opening, I get the cedarwood, and right behind the cedarwood is this beautiful Tubéreuse, but it never fully comes to the forefront. And I get the hints of cinnamon. I absolutely get the spices in here. As it dries down, I feel like I lose the Tubéreuse that I have in the opening. So the Tubéreuse takes a backseat, and it doesn't share the stage with the cedarwood that it does in the opening. Maybe in the opening it's 50-50, and in the dry down it's more 75-25, with the cedarwood winning out in the dry down, and the cinnamon is there, and the clove spices things up as well. So I do enjoy this. I tend to spray it from here as opposed to the bell jar. I like the bell jars. They're adorable, but they're a little difficult. There's that extra step in wearing the fragrance. I have to decant it or dab it on, which is fine. But I do like Cèdre. It does something with a floral similar to what Hermès does with Cèdre Sambac, which is a cedarwood / jasmine. So it's similar to what Hermès is doing with a jasmine and cedarwood in that fragrance. It's also a little similar to what Male Fushuni does with Tubéreuse in Odor 93. So that's this dark, sandy sort of fragrance that to me comes off like a brown fragrance, almost like a sandy brown. And behind this complex, sandy, brown, spiced, woody aspect, you get this beautiful tuberose that comes shining through. So this does something similar. Cedar wood with this tuberose that comes through in the backdrop. So I do think this is beautiful. At number 13 is Cèdre. At number 12 is another bottle that's part of my OG collection. I put the dent Féminité du Bois. This was released in 2009. Now, this was a re-release of a Shiseido fragrance, also called Féminité du Bois. It's the same fragrance, I believe. In 1992, that one was released, and it was groundbreaking. Serge Lutens created that fragrance, and the reason it was groundbreaking, as you guys probably know, it was the first woody fragrance targeted towards women. Before then, fragrances that were targeted towards women did not include woody fragrances. So the fragrance is a groundbreaking fragrance. It was innovative at the time, and in 2009, it went into this bottle as part of Serge Lutens' collection. So this has a note of plum, there are floral notes in here, there are woody notes in here. It's described as a potpourri of flowers against woods. And I really do love this. It has just the right amount of sweetness. There's something almost a little powdery as well. I used to wear this so much along with Fleurs d'Oranger, and I just don't reach for it anymore. I would really love to have a bottle of the Eau de Parfum, the Shiseido Féminité du Bois. That's a little difficult to come by, and you have to spend a pretty penny to get a bottle of that, but I would like to add that to my collection. I feel like I have a sentimental attachment to this fragrance. And I probably don't wear this as much as I would like to, not only because I have a huge fragrance collection at this point, but also because there are certain fragrances that are very special to me, and I don't want to use up the juice, which is silly. I should enjoy this because there's plenty to enjoy in this bottle. So at number 12 is Féminité du Bois. At number 11 is Ambre Sultan. Now this is the newer packaging. I would like to get the older packaging. I need to put the effort into looking for a bottle. This is a reference amber, and I believe that the release of Ambre Sultan sort of marked the beginning of an amber taken into a spicy aromatic direction. I don't think that sort of thing was done with ambers until Ambre Sultan in 1993. So this is a 1993 release, and it's just this perfect amber that's just the right amount of sweetness, vanillic sweetness, ambery sweetness, just the right amount of spices, just the right amount of warmth. It's a very warm fragrance. It's enveloping. I find it very rich and a little bit syrupy, which I like. I love the sweetness in here. I really do. It's very different from something like Ambre Perçu by the house of Maître Parfum et Gantier, which is a little bit more aromatic. This is different from something like that. And it's different from some of the ambers that I own, like Ambre Loup by Rania J, which is oody and dark. So some can be dark and syrupy, very, very rich and gloopy. You could take amber into a very rich, heavy direction. This is just right. It's beautiful. It's very cozy and enveloping, and perfect for the colder season. There's no dent in here. I mean, maybe I sprayed this twice. I need to wear this. I need to use this. I do love ambers, and I have quite a few in my collection. So Ambre Sultan, a reference amber, is number 11. It's a beautiful amber fragrance. If you haven't tried this and you like amber fragrances, it's a must. It's a must, at least a must try. So at number 10 is a more recent release from the house. So this is in the modern packaging. This is from 2023, and this is Écrin de Fumée. This is a great fragrance. Chocolatey, boozy, woody, ambery. It opens up with a rich, dark chocolatey, boozy, almost syrupy opening. As it dries down, I feel that that chocolatey component sort of leaves the fragrance, unfortunately. So this does change. There's more of that chocolatey richness, sweetness in the opening, but it's not too sweet. Any sweetness in here is rich and dark, and I feel like it's hand in hand with the cacao, the chocolatiness. But unfortunately, what I don't like about this, even though I love this fragrance, I don't like that that chocolatey aspect that I get sort of subsides. And by the time it dries down, it's a rich, boozy fragrance that's woody with ambery touches. So it's more of a woody, sort of boozy, warm fragrance. It's great. I love this with ambery touches for sure. So this is one of the newer ones, like I said, a 2023 release. So it is going to be in the new packaging. You can find this at discounters. The prices are amazing. And I think I added this 50 ml for like $70. I wasn't sure if I was going to like the fragrance. I haven't really worn this much, but believe it or not, I did spray this a few times and it was enough to know that I have an appreciation for this. I like this scent profile. What I like is that Serge Lutens doesn't follow trends, and so you're not going to get something sugary sweet. Yes, there's sweetness in some of these fragrances, but I like how the sweetness is done. And it's great here. It's boozy, it's rich, it's dark. And the boozy aspect in here, by the way, it comes off like a dark liqueur. It goes hand in hand with the dusty cacao. And I think by the time this dries down, it's a dry fragrance. Even though I find it syrupy in the opening, I think it's a dry fragrance in the dry down. So that is Écrin de Fumée. Okay, at number 9 is one that I have this little decant of and a bottle that's on the way. It's a fragrance that I did not like at first impression, and I said so in one of the videos. And this is De Profundis, which was released in 2011 by the house of Serge Lutens, and I really grew to love this fragrance. So I went through about 3/4 maybe or half of this decant, and I decided that a full bottle needed to be added to my collection. However, I think it's discontinued, so I had a very, very difficult time, and I found it in the Gratte-Ciel bottle. I thought that when I looked on the website, when I was testing this out months ago, I thought that this was in the bell jar, I believe. But I can't find it. I guess it's discontinued. I read that it's discontinued, so you guys can let me know in the comments. So De Profundis was one that was a slow burn. I did not like it at first, like I said. It's a chrysanthemum frankincense fragrance, and a lot of people describe it as melancholic, funeral flowers. It's a very floral fragrance with a lot of green. And while I could see the melancholic sort of funeral aspect of the fragrance, to me, I feel that it smells like walking into a flower shop where you can't distinguish one flower from the other, and you get just this melange of all different flowers, and you get green. This is very green. And I also find that the florals in here almost come off like they're dried and on the brink of death. So I guess I do get that aspect of the fragrance that people refer to, like going to a funeral, and because chrysanthemums are basically those types of flowers that I think are used at funerals, basically. But the fragrance, in the end, it opens a little more challenging to my nose than the way I perceive it as it dries down. So the more I wore it, I realized that as it dries down, I really do appreciate it. And I like the way the florals come off as it dries down. And I really enjoy it on skin. So I decided to add a full bottle to my collection. And I guess I snatched up a bottle just in time. And I love how the juice is purple. I like the color of the juice. So not only did I not like this initially and then grew to love this, this is number 9 on the list. So that's De Profundis. At number 8 is a recent addition to my collection. I absolutely love this fragrance, Datura Noir. Datura Noir is not one that was ever on my radar. This one was released in 2001. So this is the first bottle that I purchased. It leaked, and it was a partial, but I did lose a lot by the fact that it leaked in transit. So I purchased another bottle in this packaging. So I'll use this first. I misspoke in one of the videos. This is not discontinued. I thought this was a discontinued fragrance. And there is a Datura flower. I had no idea. But what this smells like in the end, like a tuberose. I love tuberose. So you get a tuberose in here. You get something almost a little tropical, like coconutty in the fragrance. I feel like this is leaking because the atomizer is a little wet. So maybe this is just a bottle with an issue that it's leaking. So there's something a little bit tropical, a little bit coconutty, and something a little bit nutty, like an almondy aspect in the fragrance. I just think it smells wonderful. There's something a little fresh. There's something a little uplifting. It's a tuberose that has a lot of other things going on. Like I said, it goes in a little bit of a tropical direction with a sort of freshness as well. It's very difficult to describe, but I do love this. This is number 8, and I had a hard time figuring out where on the list this should go. It really is a favorite of mine. So that's number 8, Datura Noir. Number 7 is a great one. Now we're getting to some really, really great ones that I absolutely love. This is a 2005 release. This is Borneo 1834. I recently spoke about this. I added it to my collection in the Cratacil bottle. This is a beautiful, smooth patchouli fragrance. It is so wonderfully layered. I feel like this makes Psychedelique and Patchouli from Profumum Rama look linear. This one is multifaceted. So I do get the earthiness of the patchouli, a little bit soily. I do get that aspect. I think the patchouli is camphoraceous, so there's something that's almost incense-like that radiates through this fragrance, but it's so beautifully balanced with the spices in here, a little aromatic in the opening, and I love the cacao that adds the chocolatey sort of element to the fragrance, just the right amount of sweetness. It is smooth, it is refined, and it is a top-notch patchouli. And I love that I have it in my collection, and there's nothing more to say. It's a top-notch, smooth patchouli fragrance. It's very, very well done. So at number 7 is Borneo 1834. At number 6, and I had a hard time again, at this point I had a very, very difficult time. This is a 2006 release. This is Chergui. Chergui did come in packaging that predates this packaging. I do want to get a bottle of the OG packaging. Chergui is a tobacco fragrance with hay, with immortelle. I find it to be a very dry fragrance. I find the tobacco to be a very clean tobacco leaf. I find that it's a lot about iris as well. There's a powderiness to this. It's clean, it's powdery, it's dry. Yes, it's tobacco, but it's not dark. There's another tobacco here, Fumerie Turque. That one is a different take on tobacco. This, to my nose, is a very almost light green tobacco leaf, like a clean take on tobacco. The color that I see here is not a dark color. It's maybe a medium tan color, a dark creamy color. Even though the juice is such a dark brown, almost purplish, I do really, really like this. This is great. So there is a little dent in here, but I should reach for this more. I do like this. So at number 6 is Chergui. At number 5 is another recent addition to my collection. Even though I've had this only a short time, I'm already in love with this fragrance. This is a 2005 release from the house, and this is à la Nuit, and it's basically a jasmine soliflor. It's jasmine, a little bit indolic. It's a gentle jasmine. I don't find this to be a heady jasmine fragrance. It has hints of honey, just the right amount. It has hints of clove, which I feel illuminates the fragrance. I wore this after I unboxed this and gave my first impression on video. After that video, I did wear this and I realized that the clove really does play its role in here. And clove seems to be a common thread in the Serge Lutens fragrances, and it just perfectly adds this spice that almost illuminates the fragrance. I think this is a stunning jasmine soliflor. For any jasmine lover, you have to get your nose on this. A very naturalistic, almost a gentle, innocent take on jasmine. It's green, and like I said, a very natural sort of take on jasmine. It's not heady, it's not loud, it's not as rich and as deep as Sarrasins from Serge Lutens. It's not as sexy as Fils de Joie. It's a little reminiscent of Paris Monte Carlo's Jasmine de Paille. So if you have a hard time getting this, that one is at a different price point. It's in the same world. I mean, this is a beautiful fragrance, but that one is in the same world. Very natural green take on jasmine. So that's A la Nuit at number 5. Stunning fragrance. At number 4 is another stunning fragrance, a 2003 release from the house, also in the bell jar, Fumerie Turque. So Fumerie Turque is a different take on tobacco. This is rich, it's darker, it's a more syrupy fragrance than Chergui. This one is tobacco with honey and rose, and the honey is quite prominent. It's a nice syrupy, rich aspect of the fragrance. Serge Lutens, I can't think of any fragrance that's sweetened with a sugary sort of synthetic type of vanillic sweetness. I can't think of one, so the sweetness smells natural, although it's very rich. And the tobacco has some smoky qualities, so it's a bit of a different take on tobacco than Chergui, which I don't find Chergui to have that smokiness. Here, I do get a hint of smokiness. It's not uber dark as a tobacco fragrance, so I don't want to give the impression that it's uber dark, but it is very rich, and the honey gives a nice brown, glistening richness to this slightly smokened tobacco in here with hints of rose. The rose is not super prominent to my nose. So Fumerie Turque is one of my favorite fragrances, and I have to decant a little more of this into one of my travel atomizers. So this one very high on the list, Fumerie Turque at number 4. At number 3 is the dark, the diva of jasmines, the dark purple Sarrasins. This is a 2007 release from the house. There's carnation in here, there's jasmine. The jasmine is a little indolic, the jasmine is heady, the jasmine is darkened. I feel like it's jasmine petals muddled with spices. There are spices in here. I think there are some woody components. It's very mysterious. It's very sexy. Like I said, it's a dark take on jasmine. Some describe it as being a little leathery. I think the spices in here play a major role at darkening the jasmine petals, so it's not as gentle and as innocent as A la Nuit. This one is the nighttime version, and it's a little more goth than Fils de Joie. I think this is much more interesting. This is a stunning dark jasmine fragrance. You have to get your nose on this if you like the idea of a darkened jasmine. It's so great. And even though to me this is not a leathery fragrance, I can see the texture. I can see how it's textured on skin. I really do love this. It's so enjoyable to wear. You can overspray this. It's definitely a stronger one, and you can stain clothing. It's deep, deep purple in color. Very, very fitting color. It's like a goth take on jasmine. So at number 3 is Sarrasins. Number 2 is a 1998 release from the house, and it features one of my favorite flowers, Tubéreuse. This is Tubéreuse Criminelle. And this one is in the Gratte-Ciel bottle, as you can see. And Tubéreuse Criminelle is a very, very interesting take on Tubéreuse. It's also a spiced sort of dark take, but it's a mentholated sort of take on Tubéreuse. It's like Vicks Vapor Rub and Tubéreuse. Imagine that combination, but it makes for such a beautiful fragrance. It's intoxicating. I think intoxicating is the word that I want to use. It takes Tubéreuse away from the coconutty, creamy Tubéreuse that we're so accustomed to in a lot of fragrances. And it's mentholated in the opening to the point where it almost feels medicinal. And then you also have clove and nutmeg in here, so there's a little bit of spiciness. There's styrax in here. I think there are musks. It is a beautiful, unique take on Tubéreuse. I absolutely love this. and that's why it's at number 2. So that's Tubéreuse, Criminelle. And at number 1 is a 1994 release from the house. This is Iris Silver Mist, and this is considered by many to be a reference iris fragrance. This is absolutely stunning. It's number 1 in my collection of Serge Lutens fragrances. This is a rooty iris. You have a little bit of powderiness from that carrot seed in the opening, almost a little bit vegetal. The fragrance, in my opinion, is white. The fragrance, while there's a translucent aspect and it's almost transparent, I feel like the notes sit one in front of the other with this rooty iris in the front, and then in this mist, you have almost something spicy, almost like a peppery spiciness. It might come from the nutmeg. It's a beautiful iris fragrance. It's number 1 of the fragrances that I own, at least, the ones in my collection. Iris Silver Mist is definitely the number 1 of the 19. So that's number 1. And I do want to mention Arabi, which is a fragrance that I just got a couple of days ago. So this would be the 20th fragrance that I own from Serge Lutens. I did not include it in the ranking because I don't know the fragrance well enough to rank it. But I will say that I was surprised I sprayed it on skin. I expected something almost gourmand sweet because I know that there are a lot of spices in here and fruits and ambery components, balsamic as well. I think there are woody components. So I think there's a lot going on in Arabi, but I did not get the sweetness that I was expecting. So I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't come off as a gloopy sweet fragrance. It's definitely a complex fragrance. It's interesting. And the fruits in here come off darkened, I would say, like not a bright, fruity fragrance. I definitely get that it's a sort of exotic take on fruits. That's the best way that I could describe it. It smells exotic, but I'm not familiar with the fragrance enough to talk about it and to put it in this list. So this is bottle number 20 that I own of Serge Lutens, and I purchased it as a partial, as you can see. It's in the original packaging. So Arabi, I'm looking forward to getting to know. And I also ordered a sample of Parfums d'Empires Aziada, I think it's called. It's compared to Arabi, and I'm very, very curious. I like the house of Parfums d'Empire, so I would like to do a side-by-side comparison. So that is my ranked list of 19 Serge Lutens fragrances. Let me know in the comments if you own any of these and your take on these fragrances. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys, your support and your comments. Until next time, bye guys.